Hi everyone, we might get started I think. Hi everyone, welcome to our RegTech Edge event on data protection, domain risk, process risk and information security solutions. In the spirit of reconciliation, the RegTech Association acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Thank you for taking the time to join us at our event today. To date, we have had over 14,000 people from more than 85 countries attend our programs. And today we have 125 registrations from 13 countries. And those include 27 regulated institutions, 10 government regulators, 4 investment and 32 RegTechs. So I just wanted to go through some housekeeping before we officially start that is. Today will be recorded and every registered delegate will receive a recording. Cameras and mics off please unless you are presenting, thank you. All questions in the chat please, so don't be shy, ask questions of our presenters and get involved. There will be some polls and some questions put in the chat, so please engage with that. And to our presenters, as you know, you only have 5 minutes. It isn't long, it flies by. So I will turn on my camera at the 4.5 minute mark, and this is your visual cue that you've got 30 seconds left. I'd also encourage our presenters to put in the chat their case studies and any other materials that might be useful for the attendees today. So our presenting RegTechs are Assurance Lab, Araya, Avert AI, Deiterate, Frisk, Carlsgate and Miko. But first, it's my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Justin Ellis from Ashurst Risk Advisory, who will provide us with a quick overview on the current landscape and also play the role of moderator. Justin is a director in Ashurst Risk Advisory practice. He has worked with the majority of global and Australian financial service providers to design and deliver strategic programs. His experience combines practical commercial delivery with a passion for how existing and emerging technology can best be leveraged for clients. Since 2020, his role at Ashurst has included working with a number of RegTechs to successfully partner and develop innovative and market-leading new solutions for their clients. Please, can you welcome Justin?
Thank you so much, Alison, for the kind introduction. Look, it's great to have the opportunity to help set the scene for the session today, and I'm particularly excited about the 7 RegTech presentations we've got coming up. A little bit about Ashurst and some of what we've seen just to help set the scene before we do. The legal firm Ashurst is actually celebrating 200 years in operation this year, but our risk advisory business is much newer, having launched in 2020. Risk advisory helps clients operationalise the law, and we now have over 100 in the team, and some of our colleagues have just actually launched in the UK due to the demand for our services over there. We've actually been a member of the RegTech Association since 2020. We do this to help support the startup community. It helps us see what solutions are being developed, what problems are solved, and also help explore who we could work with to help our clients. Our team has expertise across a number of different domains, which are very relevant today, some of which include helping clients understand and manage their risk across areas such as information security, process and domain risk, data protection and privacy. This is also extended in helping organisations best respond when they do actually experience a breach in some of these areas. This can include crisis management, ongoing support, as well as the remedial and regulatory actions that are often required. Recent events have really starkly highlighted the challenges many organisations are facing across these domains. Even today, I think many people would have saw a well-known listed health insurer has had to suspend trading on the ASX because of a suspected incident. The topics we're covering today are certainly receiving increased awareness and attention, and I'm not surprised to see a good audience in attendance today. The broad range of stakeholders we see who are interested in these topics include boards, C-suites, executive, investors, suppliers, and of course, end clients themselves, who all have different perspectives and interests that need to be considered. Many organisations are starting to, and I think it's going to even accelerate further, really re-examine what personal data they have, both for past and current clients, questioning why they have it and whether it's necessary, looking at where it's kept and how securely it and related systems are, but also the effectiveness of controls in place. We're also seeing this, I think, is going to extend to in managing even employee data. Think about what you do when you're on board, many people as well, And unfortunately, employees have also been the victims of breaches. Probably the other common theme we're seeing across the board is a challenge around resourcing. So firms are finding a considerable challenge to find the right talent for critical roles, which can often make the case for finding better and smarter ways to approach these key areas even more important. We've experienced this firsthand, having worked on several collaborations with a number of RegTechs, both here and in other regions, and really look forward to continuing this in the future. Now, we might as well get on with the showcases, which is why we're all here. I'd now like to introduce the first of our 7 RegTech presenters today. So the RegTechs are really getting the opportunity to show how their solution and how they address these issues so well. So the first is Assurance Lab. So I'll pass over to Nicholas now, who is a co-founder and co-CEO.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for the introduction. I'll dive straight in. Trust is the most precious asset in the business world, and it's at its lowest point ever and becoming increasingly complex and difficult to manage. Audits and compliance are the only scalable way. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Pillar. Pillar is the solution, providing a new and better way of achieving compliance and completing audits your way, allowing you to focus on building trust without all the pain. Next slide, please. We're the founders of Assurance Lab and Pillar, and we're on the journey to solving the global compliance and trust problem. My name's Nick Luton, and I lead the growth activities of the company. Please feel free to get in touch with me after today's session. I'd love to discuss how we can either support you or how we can work together on solving this global problem. Next slide. We've seen some great success on the journey to date, developing and implementing the Pillar method. We've grown to 160 plus customers. We saw 170% growth in financial year 22. We've moved from 2 to 13 employees in just 18 months as a self-funded business, and we're only just getting started. Next slide. Now, trust is hard to manage, and that's because we have a compliance problem. It's complex and not easily scalable, and therefore we have an environment that is extremely difficult to build trust in the business world. Next slide. I'll explain the problem a little further with the analogy of an electrical plug. Around the world, there are hundreds of electrical grids, but with standardized wall plugs, there are several you might need. Next slide. Compliance is similar. However, it's the millions of companies around the world that need to connect on compliance. And instead of several standardized plugs, there are hundreds of compliance standards. Next slide. Here are just a few of the global standards you would recognize that a compliance subject or a software company, for example, may have to adhere to build trust and to do business. Next slide. What adds further pain to this problem is that we have a three-sided broken market. For the businesses that need to comply, the stakeholders that rely on compliance, such as large enterprise, and reviewers, such as audit firms that independently verify it. Next slide. And that's where Pillar comes in. Pillar's data-driven assessment flow translates the compliance subject's activities into a unique data profile. And by linking to dozens of standards, they know what's relevant to them and how to achieve compliance in a way that fits. The Agile Audit Board unlocks collaboration and audit consolidation. Policies are designed specifically for the business, leveraging automation. Evidence collection is seamlessly captured through integrations. Compliance is centralized with configurable workflows, and you can easily manage your compliance at scale through insight-focused dashboards. Now, I won't go into all the amazing elements of Pillar today, but next I'll talk a little bit more about the data-driven flow and agile audits. Next slide, please. The data-driven flow is the unique engine underpinning Pillar. It allows a compliance subject to easily understand their gaps and controls in relation to one or multiple global standards and simplifies what they need to do next. There's a significant 50 to 75% overlap in standards, and Pillar ensures they can capture the value of that overlap so they can centralize and consolidate their audits with a reviewer or an audit firm also using Pillar. Pillar can help achieve multiple compliance goals simultaneously while removing duplication, effort, as well as the increasing costs associated with compliance. Next slide. The data-driven flow allows you to be audit ready in a matter of minutes, and with the click of a button, agile auditing is underway. The Agile Audit Board allows you to work asynchronously, so no more screen sharing or specific audit times. You can work on audits anywhere at any time. It allows for iterative work. The agile and collaborative process allows you to make progress without boiling the ocean. It has content and knowledge seamlessly plugged in, removing the need for expertise. And allows you to be adaptable as compliance continues to snowball. Pillar scales easily and allows you to adapt to the changing market requirements. Next slide. And we've got glowing feedback from our trailblazing customers who have worked with us and continue to work with us using the Pillar method. Next slide. And we've got a really exciting product roadmap ahead. It's all about unlocking the compliance connectivity with both audit firms and large enterprise joining the platform to connect compliance at scale. Next slide. So why don't you get in touch with us? If you're a large enterprise, we'll share more about our plans on how we can support you in the management of your vendors at scale. If you're an audit firm and like to understand more about how Pillar will boost your overall productivity, please reach out. If you're a compliance subject or a software company, why don't you get in touch with us about getting on our freemium model and start working towards uplifting your compliance to global standards. And finally, if you're an investor, we've commenced our initial conversations and love to share with you more about our success to date and where we're headed as a company. Next slide. Really appreciate your time. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with me at nick@pillargrc.com or via my mobile listed there. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Nick. I think that was a really good presentation and spot on time, so thank you very much for that. Next in our list of the showcases today, I'd like to pass over to Paul, who is the CEO of Araya. Over to you, Paul.
Do we have you, Paul? Perhaps we've lost Paul. Just checking quickly.
I'm sorry about the tech issue
excellent.
there. So we'll start again. So much to talk about, and I've wasted a bit of time already with the tech issue. Next slide, please. So I've got a lot of information to get through, but the important bits are Araya is an Australian company, but a global leader in voice biometric technology, using voice intelligence to make customer journeys more secure, more safe, and more convenient. Next slide, please. We all know the problem, so I won't spend too much time. It's been debated ad nauseum in the papers, etc. But relying on knowledge-based questions, it's broken. Relying just on a device, so trust the device that I'm trying to access services on, but only trust it for what it is. It's a device that somebody else may have virtual or physical access to. And whilst I love my fingerprint and my face print readers to verify that I'm the identity enrolled on the device, it doesn't mean that I am actually the authorised person trying to access a service, because if I've got access to the device, I can load my fingerprint or face print onto the device, and the device says, yep, that's an authorised print, allow it to keep going. Araya has a resolution to this problem. If we go to the next slide, I'll start the explanation. When you need a multi-factor authentication step up in a process, whether it's in chat, messaging, apps or browsers, when you need to verify that it really is the authorised person, you slide out a piece of information and it says, touch the microphone icon and say the number displayed. That's a one-time passcode associated with that specific transaction request or access to information request. Touch the microphone icon, say it. The device has no place in making any decisions. All the device does is record me saying that number and securely encrypting it and posting it off to EBA behind the organisation's secure vault, where three things happen. Did this information come from the trusted device? Tick. Did the person say the correct one-time passcode for this specific transaction? Tick. And the most important element, was the person saying the one-time passcode the person who we know from their voice print that we store, the authorised person entitled to access this service? And if that's a tick, then the person gets the service conveniently. They didn't have to switch devices. They didn't have to do anything else. So it's convenient, it's secure, it's private. I'm going to go through a couple of other really important elements to this. So if we go to the next slide, if I'm trying to do this and I'm a bad actor, and I can have a list or a series of recordings of bad actors, and I can spot bad actors before they're able to do damage. Bad actors continue to come back to honeypots. We know who they are because we've got recordings of them from past activities, and we can make sure that they never get access again. Next slide. Now, most people understand voice biometrics as an issue for contact centres. But in this day and age of concern about identity theft, why would anybody ever tell a call centre agent name, address, date of birth, mother's maiden name, and any other secret questions they may ask me? If my voice verifies my identity on the way to get to the call centre agent, The agent gets a screen full of information about me, might even display my name, Paul. Welcome back, Paul. But I'm not going to ask you, and what's not said, I'm not going to ask you secret information about your accounts or your address or any other code or information that I can honeypot or take away and aggregate and sell to the bad actor community. Now, if you think about how contact centres have evolved to be a lot of work from home agents, this is a real issue. So using voice biometric to identify and verify the caller and provide the agent with the confidence that I am the authorised person, I can be serviced with the account information, but the agent doesn't get to see any of the PII or ask for and get the PII as part of an identity or manual verification process. So let me summarise again on the next slide. These organisations around the world are part of the portfolio of customers we provide voice biometric security for, whether it's verifying the identity of people before they get to speak with a call centre agent, whether it's verifying the identity of somebody who's trying to access a service or information via chat, message, app or browser. If they're going to get let in to get access to their service, do we need to make sure not only have they got the correct device, but they are in fact the authorised person entitled to get access to the information. Next slide, please. These are our contact details. We're really keen to hear from anybody that thinks that our capability could help you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Paul. Thank you. That was a really good presentation. I think the next one is from Chanel for Avert AI. So over to yourself.
Thank you. Avert AI empowers employees to write compliant communications with next generation language AI. Next slide. Our domain expertise comes from our background with data privacy and compliance breaches. I was a key part of Australia's second largest penalty of $50 million under consumer law on a non-compliance case. Our CTO, Javed, is a veteran tech leader in financial services, specialising in AI, natural language processing and machine learning, and has spent most of his career building data privacy and compliance solutions. Our COO, Phil, has extensive experience in billion-dollar M&A deals where he has encountered these issues on an enterprise level at Fortune 500s. Next slide. Now, 90% of data breaches are caused by human error. Compliance training is not retained, and employees are reliant on manual practices and processes. Next slide. And we know that organisations are dealing with an increasingly complex risk landscape. Regulations are rapidly changing and becoming stricter. Data privacy and compliance costs and fines are at unprecedented levels and are just considered dead weight. Next slide. So let's look at this real-world use case in which a customer-facing employee has caused a human error breach. The employee is writing to a customer requesting 2 years of medical records to assess an illness claim. The employee has caused a sensitive data breach by requesting and receiving medical information that was too broad and unrelated to the diagnosis, leading to penalties, reputational damage, and additional costs in training and monitoring. Next slide. But what if this employee was assisted in real time to send compliant communications, providing a safeguard for themselves and their organisation? Our writing assistant is like Grammarly for compliance. It uses AI to proofread and rephrase any text in real time to detect and prevent compliance breaches. The tool works wherever you type, across email, documents, and chat. So we've looked at a customer-facing use case. We'll now look at how our writing assistant can work in silos across different departments to intercept potential internal breaches. Next slide. So this is another real-world use case of a GDPR penalty from a company that undertook employee surveillance using biometric tracking. Here is a document of an operations employee typing up the proposed strategy. It is at this touch point that we can alert the employee of the risks involved, as biometrics can only be used for authentication and security purposes. Next slide. And our second product addresses the knowledge gap. Our conversational AI decomposes unstructured data into meaningful insights for instant and easy access to data privacy advice and support. Here you can see the employee is asking about what medical records are required to assess an insurance claim, and they receive an instant answer they can understand and action. Embedded into Slack, it enables the employees to better understand their obligations and reduces low value added tasks consumed by compliance teams. Next slide. Our solutions enable worker augmentation, increased productivity, reduces risks and costs, and improves the customer experience without disrupting workflows. Next slide. Our tools are cloud native, making it for a quick and frictionless integration and can be deployed behind firewalls to ensure all assets remain within an organization's environment. Next slide. We've built our foundation engine on a multilingual GDPR and Privacy Act model to enable scalability. We can help organizations reach a higher standard of data privacy compliance, even if they operate in a region with lower regulation standards. Our early adopters are heavily regulated organizations. However, our tools have a broad scope of commercial use cases that can be applied across any sector operating on private data. Next slide. Next generation language AI is a nascent ecosystem and we're at the vanguard of this technology revolution. We are an early stage startup founded earlier this year, and we have raised pre-seed with Antler Venture Capital. We're currently beta testing with early customers from fintechs, consultancy, insurance, marketplaces, and education. Next slide. If you are interested in our technology, please reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Chanel. That was a really good presentation. Just looking for our next presenter now, who is Andrew, co-founder and CEO of Deiterate. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you. And hi, everybody. I'm Andrew from Deiterate. Deiterate is a cloud software platform that enables growing businesses to gain certification to data standards like ISO 27001 in a really simple way. We do this by solving a pretty well-known business problem, which we believe is the cause of a lot of our cybersecurity problems, but has been sitting in the too hard basket for a really long time. So what I'm talking about, of course, is the well-known issue in business that your staff don't read or understand your compliance policies. The numbers themselves are really telling. In 2021, the OAIC stats say that 41% of data breaches in Australia were caused by human error. So that's almost 1 in 2 breaches that were caused by simple mistakes. And it turns out that those common mistakes are actually really well documented. Most companies have specific policies written to help educate staff on what to do and how to avoid these common pitfalls. But as we know, people aren't reading their compliance policies. So I guess the real question here is why? And if you look at compliance policies, most paper-based policies are written for auditors to audit easily. They're not written for users to read. So if your day job isn't in compliance or risk or governance, then digesting one of these policies is going to be a challenge. So if you take the knowledge that your compliance policies is the foundation of your compliance activities, then any compliance or assurance program you build on top of a confusing set of policies is pretty well predisposed to being equally as complex. And we believe that complexity is the real barrier to entry for growing businesses to be better at security and to prevent data breaches. Next slide, please. So now we understand that simplified policies and assurance are kind of at the core of a successful compliance program. Once we finished simplifying both of those concepts, we looked at the journey to go from 0 to certified and realized that we'd kind of unlocked a much simpler certification process at the same time. And that process is really simple. You turn on the platform, you configure it using our wizard, you perform your tasks, you read your policies, and then you're free to start getting your certification. So for small companies, that could take as little as a couple of weeks. For larger companies, obviously that takes a little bit longer, but the process itself is the same for all companies. Next slide, please. So what do the Deiterate policies look like? At Deiterate, we call them smart policies, and we say that because they're not just policies, they're actually policies delivered as learning modules. So this way you kind of get 2 for 1. The learning content is designed to be memorable, and it's written to be read, and it's meant to be understood by the reader. And by delivering content in this way, we're actually able to capture some really rich reading metrics. So in the report engine, you can see if policies themselves are being read or if they're just being clicked through really quickly. And this is a major shift away from paper-based reading and really drives cyber literacy in a really effective way. Next slide, please. In the Deiterate web interface, we present an automated compliance calendar to keep all your compliance activities on track. The calendar logs your regular tasks, and alerts you when you have tasks to perform. There's 50 or so pre-configured tasks in the platform that you need to complete every year to maintain your compliance, and they should take on average around 30 minutes to complete. So you can see with sort of minimal time investment, you can maintain and demonstrate mature compliance in a really simple and effective way. Next slide, please. Because we demonstrate compliance using these small practical to-do tasks each month, we can actually generate really rich leading and lagging indicators for good and bad security practices. So you don't need to be an expert to make use of these features. Lead and lag indicators are automatically populated when you generate your quarterly compliance reports. And the great part about quarterly compliance reports is that if you are servicing, let's say, a regulated industry, and perhaps you're in their supply chain, you can easily demonstrate your maturity and transparency by sharing some of these compliance reports with them. Next slide, please. So that's it. Turnkey compliance is definitely here. All this is completed without the need to hire any specialist cybersecurity roles into your business and without heavily impacting on regular business operations. So if securing your business or protecting privacy and confidentiality is important to you, please reach out to us at these addresses to find out a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. That was another really good presentation. Now, next one is from Frisk. So I'll pass over to Nick, who is CEO at Frisk.
Fantastic. Thanks, Justin. Greetings from the beautiful city of Churches, Little Adelaide. My name is Nick Kirvan. I'm the CEO at Frisk. We're an Australian company that started in 2008 in South Australia, and we provide enterprise with the ability to get deeper insights into their structured and unstructured data to support more informed decisions. Next slide, please. So today I'd like to discuss how getting access to the right information is critical to reducing process risk. In my career, I've seen many process maps, and many process maps have diamonds in them, and those diamonds represent a decision point. And to reduce risk and improve efficiencies, having the right information at that decision point is quite critical, and I'll show you how Frisk can help solve that problem. Next slide, please. Many of you would have seen similar diagrams to this, which is a sea of data in all different types and forms. What I'd like to just highlight here is that what we've represented below the top of the mountain is an array of unstructured and structured data sources. And typically, a lot of organisations focus on the plumbing of structured data to a central point. Frisk is able to index information in any form, and we fully appreciate that this is a difficult and challenging component to get control over in an enterprise. Next slide, please. To help with data overload, to connect and get enriched visibility of your information, we're able to actually index unstructured and structured data from any source available across the enterprise. Next slide, please. Just talking about three core platform capabilities. Index and search is the bread and butter of what Frisk does. We are able to provide a Google-like experience to search your structured, unstructured data to find information and to support business decisions being made. We also have a number of features which provide integration and automation capabilities, including intelligent document processing at the point of ingestion of information into the Frisk platform, and also the ability to retrieve documents to potentially help with a freedom of information request, or the ability to collate documents from separate repositories into one spot. And thirdly, artificial intelligence. We use machine learning and AI to extract greater value out of your unstructured data to improve decision consistency. And we do this through fuzzy matching and machine learning suggestions across large disparate data sets. Next slide, please. I'm just going to show a couple of screens to show how easy and intuitive the Frisk UI is. The screen that you see now is just an example of a simple search, which is an aggregated view of structured and unstructured data in one spot. And many of our clients, before they used Frisk, would have to log into multiple systems to be able to find the information they were looking for to support a decision. What you can see on the left-hand side is a number of cases that have matched the search. And on the right-hand side, we've then got the unstructured data that has also matched the search. And seeing that in one view is a valuable insight into a decision point in the process. Next slide, please. We also have AI capabilities that use natural language processing to actually compare information that's on the screen with other potential repositories to connect the dots. So in this example, we're using the find similar function, which essentially uses key content relevant specific user intent intelligence, and then seamlessly searches across unstructured data silos to find similar cases that may match the case that the process worker is looking at. Next slide, please. The third example is showing the possibility of actually providing users with the indication that information they're looking for exists in a repository that they don't have access to. So our global safe search actually provides a user with the notice that what they're looking for exists somewhere else, and provides them with the ability to go and then request access to look at that data, and breaks down the silos that potentially exist between repositories of information. Next slide, please. Some of the benefits that Frisk can provide a business. A lot of benefits are around time savings. So we've estimated almost 11 minutes of time saved per activity for a client, which equated to 80 to 88 FTE per saving per annum. In another example, we've estimated 85 minutes per day on research tasks across 2,000 staff. We've also helped another client save 5 million per annum in quantified savings due to process efficiencies. And then in the call center example, we've saved 2 minutes per call for a call center that had 120,000 calls. Oop, that was my timer going off. Across 120,000 calls per annum. Finally, if you're interested in becoming a partner, please reach out. We're looking for organisations that want to add this to their armoury when it comes to data insights. And if you're a customer, we'd love to talk to you further. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. That was another great presentation. Next up is Vivian, who is the Chief Product Officer at Carsgate. So over to you, Vivian.
Sorry. Hello, I'm Vivian. I'm the co-founder and the Chief Product Officer of Carsgate. Carsgate is a privately enhancing technology company founded in 2020, funded by Microsoft Venture Capital and Molefool Ventures. Right now, we have over 20 global data partners. And LexisNexis is also using our technology to empower this kind of zero trust data exchange across the whole healthcare ecosystem in the US. Our mission is making data connectivity safe and easy. Next slides. Before I talk about a challenge, I think everyone here knows what happened to Optus and also what are we going to expect by end of this year, a very strong privacy laws. Next. Thanks. So let's talk about the challenge, the PI paradox in the privacy-led world. Very interesting, we have seen the complete two opposite trend today. From one side, with more and more data generated, we see the increasing demand to use API to connect the distributed and the fragmented data and tech ecosystem. But the other hand, we have seen this globalization of privacy laws. Every country is put very strict regulation to protect the PII. As a company, you're going to ask, how can I protect the PII, stay compliant, and also to ensure data utility? Next, please. That's why Carsgate, we designed this solution, zero trust data connectivity. Think about what if you could stop exposing, copying your sensitive data, protect the PII, the rest in transit and in use, stop using out-of-date data, avoid a custom integration for each data source, meet changing regulatory requirements. With the Carsgate, you can always maintain full custody of your data. Keep the PII always staying at home under your control with a full life cycle protection. Always just access accurate and consented data. Deploy the once, regardless your infrastructure, your tech stack, connected everywhere, and automatically comply with the regulations. Next slide, please. So what is the end-to-end zero trust protection of a PII? So first, we ensure you never lose your custody of your PII. Give you the capability to de-identify the PII on-prem with your own private keys. We help you completely remove that PII from your existing data flows, further reduce the data leakage risk. When you're going to use a PII to do the match, you never reveal the PII to any third-party company, including Carsgate. Completely block the re-identification risk. Next slide, please. So our key product is called a Costgate Identity Exchange. We give our customer a great and easy user experience to easily and flexibly connect exchange data internally and externally with a complete security, compliance, and efficiency. Next slide, please. Let's use one case and to explain how we help our client. This is a telco company based in Mexico. So what they want is they want to know more about their existing customers. So they're going to buy some data attributes from Axiom, a data company based in the US. For them to do that, they need to send the full PI base to Axiom, that including tax ID, phone numbers, and emails. They can't do that because it's not just to send the data to out of their company, they need to send it across borders. So they try different ways, encryption, but the encrypted data Axiom gonna decrypt the data, they're gonna fully expose the PII. How about a hash? But a hash PII is still PII. They can't send the hash phone numbers across the border. So at the end, both sides use KIE to enable this cross-border data enrichment. So let me say the result first. At the end, both sides keep the full custody of their own PII, never revealing anything to each other, including Costgate. Just a couple of clicks, several hours later, this telco company can see this additional 600 variables already appended direct to the local file in the data center, ready for them to use. That fully address the security and compliance issues and skip the lengthy legal review process for any similar data exchange project in the future, dramatically save the IT resource and data ops time. Next, please. And we prepared the other two more case studies in financial services industry and the healthcare. If you're interested to know more, you can get a copy of the deck at the end of this call. So this is the robust and growing network of Costgate clients. Next. Very important, if you want to know more, scan this QR code. Let's have a chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. I think everyone will be very familiar with QR codes in this audience, so it's a nice touch. Great presentation. And finally, last but not least, I'll pass over to Victoria, who's the COO for Miko. Over to you, Victoria.
Thanks very much, Justin, and good afternoon, everyone. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk about the data protection aspect of data and information security. The next slide, please, and then on to the next one as well. So what problem are we solving? I'm going to forever call it the hot potato problem, thanks to Minister Dominello. So in response to Optus's data breach, Dominello has been quite vocal on LinkedIn, and I think he really captured the problem nicely. So once upon a time, personal information was hot property, and now it's a hot potato. And he asked a really important question about how we can reduce the amount of personal information in circulation. And there's another side to the challenge. Next slide, please. So the other side to the challenge is, how do you create value? You know, businesses and individuals, we want to create some value from the data that we have. So we need to think about mechanisms for sharing that are secure. Next slide, please. So the solution that Miko has put together allows organizations to help their customers access, control, and share their information. Next slide, please. So when we're living in this application layer, there are really some tools that we need to use to make sure that we can share information that's encrypted and only share a limited amount of information at the right time. Next slide, please. So we have a platform that is composed of a number of components that support data encryption, that support the sharing of data, and also support the creation of verifiable credentials, which is a mechanism to make identity assertions about yourself without sharing all of the information. And that classic example is, why would you use your driver's license as an identity document when actually, in Optus's example, probably what they really needed was a confirmation from my bank that I had completed KYC, and our platform enables people to do that. So I wanted to focus on some of the components. Next slide, please. So the things that we think could specifically have helped Optus in that example is a secure data vault. So imagine my bank offers me a secure data vault. Everything in the vault is encrypted and it's only ever decrypted when it's on my phone or on my computer. The other thing that the vault supports is secure sharing with selected parties. So one of our customers in Europe is using the vault to underpin an ecosystem of building out services for their customers with third-party providers like telecommunications and energy providers. The other thing that we need when we're in this digital environment is a wallet. We need an interface to allow us to manage our credentials and to access information that we put in the vault. The other thing that we need is a way to share certain pieces of information about ourselves in a privacy enhanced way. I think a lot of people are familiar with verifiable credentials now because of the work that Service New South Wales is on the public record as having explored. So Service New South Wales has an intention to issue citizens in New South Wales with a digital verifiable credential, which represents their birth certificate. That's massive progress. That means that organisations like Optus won't need to collect the original information that they needed for the 100-point check. And then the final thing that organisations need is a way to manage all the permissions. So we have a service called Atom, which is about the authorisation and tenancy management of organisations. Next slide, please. So just in terms of case studies, I'm not going to go through them all. Next slide, please. But there are two that I wanted to highlight. KBC Bank, they have our vault, and the vault allows people to store any type of information encrypted in it. And one of the most interesting use cases that they launched last year was when I buy something, if I have a receipt, they allow me to save that receipt in the vault, and then they give me a reminder perhaps when the warranty is up, and they've integrated that with their AI. Next slide, please. And the one perhaps most relevant to data protection is a case study. I'll put a link in the chat where with Connect ID, we issued verifiable credentials for employee onboarding. And the benefit of that was employees were onboarded much faster, they were quicker into the workforce, and the data collected about them was significantly reduced. So if you wouldn't mind just scrolling sequentially through all of the next use cases and just to the final slide. One of the points I wanted to make is that we do have ISO accreditation. I know a previous speaker said that's really tedious and boring. It is, it's a lot of hard work, just to make the point that we do have ISO accreditation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria. That was another really good presentation. I think we've been very lucky today to have such a good session. I'll pass back over to Alison just to finish up today. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all our presenters. We love providing you guys with a platform to showcase your innovative RegTech solutions, and a big thank you also to you, Justin. We have a great relationship with Ashurst, which we value greatly. You will receive a link to the recording tomorrow, and so you'll see that. But I wanted to talk about some events we have coming up, and please feel free to register for them. So next Tuesday, we are delivering our second RegTech for Better Government event. So join us to hear from key ecosystem stakeholders and hear about real-world case studies presented by government. And the session will also conclude with a panel discussing the opportunities and challenges. We also have our 2022 RegTech Awards dinner coming up on the 27th of October. Tickets are still available, so register now so you can help celebrate the achievements of the RegTech ecosystem. The Honourable Victor Dominello, Minister for Customer Service and Digital Government, will be delivering the keynote address. And Victoria, you've reminded me that I need to make sure that we are not serving him hot potatoes on the night. We also are very excited to be hosting some face-to-face global events in November. In Singapore, we will be hosted by ING's Innovation Hub, and in New York, Accenture are hosting us. And these events will include presentation from RegTechs and a panel session. And again, they are face-to-face, and you're very welcome to join us if you're in those locations at that time. So thank you again for joining us. Please feel free to stay online for the next 10 minutes or so. Put your cameras on, microphones on, and we can chat. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you.